Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be working on two-step word problems or story problems. And in order to do this with us, you'll, as always, need something to write with and something to write on so that you can pause the video and solve the problems on your own while I am solving them in the video. So let's start with our learning target for today. Our learning target is I can solve two-step story problems using the four operations. So that means that we are going to be using addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So what exactly are two-step word problems or story problems? Two-step word problems are story problems that require you to use two different operations or sometimes the same operation twice before you can find the answer. So solving these types of problems is best done with the cubes method, and we're going to talk about that today. So there'll be more than one type of operation or type of math that you'll have to do. You'll have to do more than one equation to solve the problem and answer the question within the problem. And so to help us kind of break down the story problem and make sure we have all of the pieces that we need, we're going to use what's called the cubes strategy or cubes method. And so that's an acronym for different things or different steps that we can take to help us solve. So C is going to be circle the numbers, which is going to help you identify the numbers we're working with. U is for underline the question, to restate the question with the space where the answer will be. So we'll talk about that, but we're just making sure we're understanding what the question is asking us. B is when we're going to box the clue words, and that's where we're going to decide which operation the problem requires. So are we adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? E means we're going to evaluate how we should solve the problem and make our plan. And then S means we're going to solve the problem and check your work to make sure that it makes sense. That's going to be a big thing, is we have to ask ourselves when we come up with an answer, does that make sense with what it was asking? If not, then we need to go back and probably check what we did. So let's jump in and think about, why do we care about clue words? One of the things we're supposed to do is to box the clue words. And we're wondering why that's so important. And really, they help us think about what operation to use. So if we are able to look at the clue words carefully, we'll know whether or not we need to add, subtract, multiply, or divide, and essentially get to our answer. We wouldn't be able to come up with our answer if we didn't look at those clue words carefully. So here is an example of some of the clue or keywords that you could find in a story problem that kind of indicate what operation you might be using. So you can pause the video quickly and take a look at those a little bit more carefully. We'll be referring to some of those words later on. We'll be pointing those ones out. So just kind of get an idea of what words mean which operation I'm going to use. When you're ready and you kind of look them over, you can press play again and we'll continue. So I'm going to start by modeling an example. You'll notice that I have the cubes strategy up in the corner so that if we forget the steps, they're there for us to remember. So here's our first story problem. I'll model my thinking on this one, but if you think you're ready and you want to try it, you can always pause the video whenever and try and solve it, and then I'll show you what my thinking was. So this first one says, our class had 35 cupcakes and 30 brownies for our party. If we ate only 21 treats, how many are left over? So using the cubes method, I'm going to first look at the C, which is circle the numbers. So the numbers are right here. I have 35, 30, and 21. So those are the numbers I'm going to be working with. They're important numbers within the story problem. I'm going to have to remember those. Next up is U, which is underline the question. And I'm going to restate it with a blank space left over for where the answers will be. And I'll model that here in a second. So the question within this is, how many are left over? So that's the question. Restating it with a space where the answer will be would be like, there are blank treats left over, is what I'm trying to figure out. How many treats are left over? The next step is B, which is box the clue words or the keywords. So I'm going to have to look carefully through this. I'm going to read through it one more time, and I'm going to think about what words were in those examples that I just gave you a moment ago to see which kind of operation I might do. So our class had 35 cupcakes and 30 brownies for our party. If we ate only 21 treats, how many are left over? So the important words within this story problem would be the word and, ate, and leftover. If I have 35 cupcakes and 35 brownies, the and usually tells me that I'm going to add those together. The word ate tells me that if I'm eating them, I'm going to have less. So I'm probably going to be subtracting. And then the clue or keyword or phrase of leftover means usually I'm going to be subtracting as well. So looking at this, I'm going to evaluate kind of what I know and make a plan for that. So I'm going to take the first sentence because that gives me a clue first and see what that has me do first, and then I'll move on to the second one. So our class had 35 cupcakes and 30 brownies for our party. So I need to stop and think, what do I need to do with that sentence there before I move on? That keyword of and tells me that I am adding. So my first step is going to be addition. I'm going to be adding 35 and 30. That's the cupcakes and brownies that we had for the party. So that means that we have 65 treats at the party. All right, that's step one. The next step in the second sentence says, if we ate only 21 treats, how many are left over? So those keywords of ate and left over mean that I am probably going to be subtracting, right? If I add, I'm taking them, or if I'm eating them, I'm taking them away. So the important thing to know here is if there's multiple steps, so there's two different steps, I have to be really careful with what I'm doing in the first step to help me with the next step. I don't want to mess up right away in the first step. I won't get the correct answer if I don't think through this carefully. So I'm going to take what I learned in my first step, that we have 65 treats, and then I'm going to take away however many we ate, which was 21. So my second step is going to be subtraction. And I'm going to take 65 minus 21. So I can use whatever strategy works best for me, but I'll figure out that that's 44. So I can't just leave that. With story problems, we have to say what it is that we figured out. So 44 what? 44 treats, right? The question was how many treats are left over? 44 treats are left over. All right, now that I modeled my thinking with that one, let's do another one together. So let's take a look at this next one. Again, I have the cube strategy up in the corner that you can use as we go along. And if you want to pause to try it before I go over all of it, you can absolutely do that. Otherwise, I'll have you pause throughout. So let's take a look at this one. It says, Ellie planted 95 tomato plants in her garden. A deer came and ate 16 tomato plants on Saturday and 41 tomato plants on Sunday. How many tomato plants are left in Ellie's garden? So we're going to use the cube strategy, so we're going to take time to go through each step. And if you remember, the first step was to circle the numbers. So I want you to think about what numbers you would circle within the story problem. And when you're ready, you can keep going. So the numbers I found were 95 for the tomato plants that she planted, 16 for the ones that got eaten and on Saturday, and 41 for the plants that got eaten on Sunday. So 95, 16, and 41 are going to be our important numbers for the story problem. The next step is to underline the question and restate it with a space where the answer will be. So think about what's the question and how can you restate that. So the question was, how many tomato plants are left in Ellie's garden? So restating that with a space for the answer would be, there are blank tomato plants left. Okay? So we've got the beginnings, but we need to figure out what kind of math we're doing, what operation are we going to be using. So that third step for the B is box the keywords or the clue words. So take a moment and reread that, looking and trying to find what are those clue or keywords that tell you what we need to do to solve this problem. So the ones I came up with, really the big important one would be 8 in this one. You could say that some ands can kind of help you. But really 8 is that big one that if a deer is eating it, then that means I'm probably going to take it away. So looking at the story again, it says Ellie planted 95 tomato plants in her garden. A deer came and ate 16 tomato plants on Saturday and 41 tomato plants on Sunday. How many tomato plants are left in Ellie's garden? So now I see the important parts of the story problem. That next step is to kind of evaluate and make a plan. We said that important word is 8, so that means we're taking some away. So my first step I'm going to do is I'm going to use some subtraction. So Ellie started with 95 tomato plants, and if a deer ate 16, that means I'm subtracting. So I'm going to say 95 minus 16. You can figure out what that might be. Press play when you're ready. So you should have got 79. So at this point, after Saturday, there's 79 tomato plants left, but I'm not done because I want to know after the weekend how many tomato plants are left after Saturday and Sunday. So think about what your next step might be. So my next step, again, it says that they ate 41 tomato plants on Sunday. So if the deer are eating them, I'm going to have to do subtraction. And think about what subtraction equation you would use. When I'm solving, if I already figured out that after Saturday there are 79 tomato plants, then I'm going to have to take 79 that are left and then subtract the amount that were eaten on Sunday. So 79 minus 41 would be my next step, which is 38. So again, I have to be able to label that and explain the answer to the story problem. How many tomato plants are left in Ellie's garden? 38 plants are left. It's important to label that so that we know what you're talking about. I'm going to have you try the next one, and I'll go through it really quickly afterwards. So once I read it, I want you to pause it and go through all of those steps and see if you can solve it on your own. So this one says, Dre has 136 marbles. He gives 47 of the marbles to his brother. For his birthday, he is given 45 new marbles. How many marbles does Dre have? So go through those, pause the video, see if you can solve the two-step story problem, and then press play and I'll walk you through my thinking. So now that you've had a chance to solve it on your own, let's take a look at the steps. So circling the numbers, I have 136, 47, and 45. The question it's asking that I underlined was how many marbles does Dre have? So I'm figuring out Dre has blank marbles. Boxing those important words. This is a tricky one because the first one is he gives marbles to his brother, and then he is given some new marbles for his birthday. So when I'm looking at that, the first step that I would do would be subtraction, and I'm going to take 136 marbles he starts with, and I'm going to take away the marbles he gave to his brother, which is 47, and I'd come out with 89. My next step would be addition, because if he has given them for his birthday, it was a gift for him, he gets those. So he had 89 after giving some to his brother. I'm going to add the 45 more that he got for his birthday. So 89 plus 45 would be 134. So to answer the question, how many marbles does Dre have? He has 134 marbles. So those ones were easier operations. We're going to do a couple of more examples where we'll get into some multiplication and division. So I'm going to model this one again. But I do want you to, if you're feeling confident, you can pause at any of these and try and solve it first, and then I'll explain my thinking too. So this one says, Esty was making baggies of cookies with 6 cookies in each bag. If she had 25 chocolate chip cookies and 29 oatmeal cookies, how many baggies could she make? So again, working through those problems, the steps of cubes, I'm going to circle the numbers, identifying which ones are important, 6, 25, and 29. Next, I'm going to underline the question. How many baggies should she make? So my answer will be she made blank baggies. Next, I'm going to box the important words. So if we have in each bag, so I'm separating them out into bags. And then I also have the word and, so that means that I would have to put those together. So this one can be kind of tricky, and that's why I wanted to model this one, because I'm going to go a little bit out of order with my first step, and I'm going to add. Because if I'm figuring out how many baggies she could make with 6 cookies in each bag, first, in order to figure that out, I'm going to have to figure out how many cookies does she have all together. So I'm going to need to add first, and then in each bag, if I'm separating them out, I'm probably going to divide. So I have 25 chocolate chip cookies and 29 oatmeal cookies. So I'm going to add those two together. 25 plus 29 is 54. My next step then, if I'm putting these into baggies and separating them out to give to friends, then I'm going to be doing some division. And so I'm going to take what I got from before. I have 54 cookies total. I'm going to divide that by the number of cookies I can put in each bag, which is 6. So 54 divided by 6 is 9. So SD can make 9 bags of cookies with 6 cookies in each bag. So sometimes you don't go in order. You have to really think about what makes the most sense. Let's do another one together. Again, that cube strategy is up there so that we can refer to it. Chloe buys 4 boxes of fruit snacks with 6 packs in each box. She eats 5 packs in the next few days. How many packs of fruit snacks are left? So let's think through that. Circling the numbers. What do you think the numbers might be? This one's kind of tricky because we spelled out the numbers instead of putting the numbers in. But we have 4, 6, and 5. Next, we're going to underline and restate the question. How many packs of fruit snacks are left? So if I'm restating it, what would that sound like? I have, or Chloe has, blank packs of fruit snacks left. Then I'm going to box the operation words, the key words. So in each box tells me that there's groups of things, or I'm going to have to either multiply or divide. And then eats, if I'm eating it, I'm not going to get it back. So I'm going to have to probably subtract. So looking through this, think about what step you would take first in order to solve how many packs are left. Well, first I need to figure out how many packs that Chloe had to start with, right? She had 4 boxes with 6 packs in each box. So in each box, and there's 6 packs in each box, she has 4 of those boxes. I'm going to have to do some multiplication. So 4 times 6 is 24. Think about what you would do for the next step. You can pause if you need to. We'll be subtracting, right? Because she's eating 5 packs in the next 5 days. So not 5 boxes worth, but 5 packs of fruit snacks. So I'm going to take what I know that she started with 24. And she's going to take 5 away that she ate. So 24 minus 5 is 19. So how many packs of fruit does she have left? Fruit snacks does she have left? She has 19 packs left to enjoy. All right, we have one more that I want you to try on your own. I'll read it to you. I want you to pause and then solve it on your own, and I will quickly go over the steps with you to see if you were correct. So Clay collected 74 seashells at the beach. He puts 32 back and puts the remaining seashells into bags. If he puts 6 shells in each bag, how many bags does he have? So again, pause the video, figure out your 2 different steps and go through that process of cubes, and then you can press play and I'll talk to you about what I did to solve it. Now that you've solved it on your own, let's look at what I did. So first, circling the numbers, I have 74, 32, and 6. I'm going to underline the question and restate it. How many bags does he have? So at the end, I need to figure out he has blank bags. I'm going to box the clue words. So in this case, he puts 32 back, meaning if he's putting them back, then I'm probably going to subtract. And then if he puts 6 shells in each bag, he's putting them in, he's dividing them out. So that's going to help us with that. So the first step then, I'm going to subtract, like I said, as we evaluate and make a plan. So he starts with 74, and then he decides to put 32 back. So we're subtracting 74 minus 32 is 42. Then, if he has the 42 shells and he's putting 6 shells in each bag that he's dividing out, I'm figuring out how many bags that would be. So again, I'm going to divide with that one. And I'm going to take 42 shells that he has with 6 shells in each bag. 42 divided by 6 is 7. So he's able to make 7 bags of shells. So hopefully you're catching on. These can be really tricky, but the cube strategy should be able to help you. And really just remember, take it one step at a time. And using that cube. So if you're using doing the practice problems in your packet this week, make sure you can get open this video if you want to pause it and look at the cube steps so that you can remember them and use that. Is always helpful to me, so hopefully it's helpful to you. If you have any questions or need help, you can always contact me through email or through Google Classroom, or talk to me at one of our weekly video chats. I miss you, and I'll talk to you soon.